SquareHammer.
Not much. It's been a while. You sound like a mouse. Yes. Yeah, still. Yeah, still having issues. Now you're muted on. Did you mute yourself? Oh, I heard myself pretty well. Okay, sorry everyone if it's not really soft right now. So yeah, this is Jonesy for those just recently joining. We're just kind of catching up on a few weeks worth of articles that Games Workshop has released talking about the old world. Some exciting stuff, some new stuff, some interesting stuff, and then some other things that maybe has gotten some backlash or hope nots that have occurred, I guess is the best way to describe it. So just want to talk a little bit about Magic because that is probably the biggest change in the core aspects of the game from what 7th and 8th edition was, and even Warhammer's Armories Project for those that played that game. And so they finally released on kind of how Magic works, what's going on. For those that are on the Magic article, you could first start off with the spell categories, right? So you have kind of some of the traditional spell categories, maybe some different wordings on some of them, right? So you have enchantments, hexes, those are your typical buffs and debuffs,
Sorry,
spells.
testing. How do we sound, guys? Is that better?
1 second, everyone.
Let me know. Please tell me that is working. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Zombie. Welcome, Harvey. Crusader. Ah. Can you hear me okay in Zoom?
Yes.
Okay, so Zoom sounds good. So hopefully YouTube is now picking up the correct. Hey, yes, excellent.
Okay.
Thanks for
Yeah.
dealing with that for me, guys. Sorry, Jonesy, please continue.
All right. 1 second while I double mute or unmute.
Double mute, unmute.
Yeah, exactly.
Ugh.
See, so yeah, then you have this new category, conveyance. It just seems like that's just a new wording for a buff spell. Magic missiles, the classic, classic fireball kind of spells. Magic vortexes. I'm thinking like purple sun. I think it used to be considered a magic vortex, and then assailment. Hopefully, I said that right. Um, Seems like those are just new word for direct damage spells. If I had to take a guess, again, magic missiles and direct damage for those played old editions, kind of know the difference, but they are very similar overall. Um, It brought out the miscast table, so this was kind of interesting to see how they were treating the miscast table because the way Magic works now
Da-da-da.
is that you roll your if you wanted to cast a spell, you can only roll
Oh,
2 dice um, to cast it. And I think that's the only dice you get, and then you add the level of the caster. Um, they only said the skill of the caster. I'm assuming that either it's plus the level of the caster.
yeah, that's what
Uh,
it's going to be.
okay.
Or, well,
Um,
supposedly. Sorry.
Adding the level of the caster
Yeah.
to the spell. So your level 4 wizards are going to very easily cast 7-up spells. That's been what's released so far.
Hmm.
Um, with these spells going into the miscast, though, only double ones cause miscast, and they got rid of sucked into the warp. I mean, you can't die
Hmm.
from these spells anymore
Hmm.
outside of miscasting multiple times in a row.
Yeah.
Maybe you have some other wizards out there with 1 wounds that might be hit by these things, but for the most part, it seems like they got rid of that.
And
But
I'm not
all
a huge fan of that. That was really it sucked when it happened to you, but man, when you roll that dice and it's like on 1, 2, or 3, you get sucked into the warp. It's like everything's on this. It like added some intensity, some suspense to the game. So now you can just willy nilly be throwing 2d6 and not ever care. Uh, but yeah,
Well, I think that added to part of the game itself. I mean, I would say probably the most powerful phase since I've been playing has always been Magic. I mean, Magic's always been just
sure,
very powerful,
sure.
even in 7th edition where the spells weren't, you know, unit wiping spells. It was still very powerful. I'm thinking like vampire counts, right? With spam spells, dark elf spam spells, demon spam spells, where you're just um, casting these spells, but there was some type of drawback to this to leaning into that where you're
Sure.
always taking the chance, right, with
Yep.
the winds of magic and just all of a sudden randomly losing your wizard lord or losing maybe a character with a important spell.
Now that was rough though. Like if you have your level 4 general and he's like a big greater demon, and then all of a sudden you miscast and you roll it, and then I don't know what the percent chance of you actually being sucked into the warp was, but when that happened, you basically, especially if it happened turn 1 or 2, you can basically chalk that up to a loss. So I understand why they don't want that in there because it was a feels bad moment. Like I played a guy. I had a couple people here at my place years ago, and we were playing Warhammer's Armies Project, and I was running Tomb Kings, and my level 4 just died on turn 1. No, I was running demons, and bless you, my big greater demon died on turn 1, and I just had to suck it up and fight for as many points as you can. But at that point, there's a good chance you lose because it's a good combat character, and it's your level 4, so all your spells are gone, and then it's also your general. So you give up, let's say, 400 points for him, and then another 100 because he's your general just dead. So I understand getting rid of that. It makes it more um, forgiving for newer people to come in and not go crazy in Magic. And if they do, they're just not gonna like want to flip the table, after the first 30 minutes of the game.
Yeah, I mean that would definitely be a rough experience. Your first game, you get this cool wizard, right? You spend all these points on him. First spell he casts, miscast, gets sucked into the warp, and you're like, oh, this was my first game experience. I guess this is how the game works.
Yes, right.
Um, I know in 7th it was like a straight 2d6 chart. I can't remember if 8th edition it scaled with the number of dice that you threw at the spells.
Nope,
Um,
it did not.
okay,
It didn't
so
matter.
I know how Warhammer's Armies Project tried to balance it a little bit, where
Hmm.
the more dice you threw at it, the more likely you were to get sucked into the warp, potentially mitigating the risk completely, depending on how many dice you rolled.
Right.
But what's also interesting with this is that basically 7 or below are just like damage. You take damage, but then 8 and above, the spell goes off, but then there might be a side effect to the
Hmm.
miscast chart.
Well, it's cool because here, so with dispelling at least, so as you can see, if you're level 1 and 2, first or second, you can attempt to dispel within 18 inches. That's pretty darn close. Like if you're within 18 inches, you are within a turn, you might get charged unless you're like backing up, or if you're a solo and you're just like running out of a unit, or if you're on a flying creature. But if you're level 3 or 4, you can dispel at 24. I'm sure there are some items and such, or specific abilities for certain races or whatever to make that a larger bubble, or maybe some have it smaller. But that's still pretty close. 24 inches isn't bad, but 18 is pretty short. And I'm guessing that when you're in combat, you won't be able to dispel because you're too preoccupied. I'm guessing. Um, what else? Double sixes is it's unbinding, so you can't dispel it. Or the same thing for dispelling and casting. If you roll boxcars, it's basically like what was it in 8th edition?
Irresistible force.
Thank you. It was like
Yeah.
irresistible force if you roll double sixes, and same thing if you're dispelling and you roll double sixes. So double one is obviously the miscast. So let's read the miscast. Actually, I guess they talk
The
about
2 through
the
4 is rough. Strength 5 blast, -4 AP over the 5-inch
where it is.
5
There
inch
it is.
circle over the wizard. That's a unit wiper.
So a 2
And
through
that's 3 of the
4.
results.
Wow,
Like,
that's awful.
yeah, like that's a unit wiper.
Now that
Uh,
used to be a thing. I think it was still a dimensional cascade. Yeah, that sounds right.
but it used to be like a really low chance that you would ever even roll it, even if you
Yeah, it's probably like a 5 because I think 2 through 4 in 8th edition was you have the chance to get sucked into the warp. I guess that might be. I don't remember the number, but there's a 2 through 4. That just murders. So you basically put your wizards on the corner because of every unit, because that if that ever happens. So that's when Bretonia get hurt whenever you miscast with Bretonian, like a Fey Enchantress or just a lady, because every single knight in the unit is going to take a strength 10 -4. Gosh, that's rough.
yeah, I mean
Uh,
that just wipes the unit. Everyone gets hit by a cannon. Good luck, everyone.
yeah.
Like,
So the next one is a 3-inch template, and it's strength 6, AP 2. Still decent. It's going to hit, if you're Bretonian, it's going to hit everyone in the unit unless you have like 12. Strength 6, you're still going to need 2s to wound. And your 2-up save, likely have a 2-up save, not a 1-up, because the Bretonians going to go to a 4-up, and you're going to lose basically half of your unit. That's rough. Careless Conjuration. You take a single strength 4 hit with -1 AP. Most wizards don't have armor unless you're like Warriors of Chaos or something. So you basically just get a ward save if you have one. You basically take a wound. Barely controlled power. So it's cast, you just cannot cast for the rest of the turn. That's not bad, because I assume if it's a level 1 wizard, you probably can only try to cast one spell a turn. Level 4s, obviously they gets hurt, not bad. Power drain.
yeah, I would say on the scale here,
It's
the
not bad.
8 through 12 is not as bad as the 2 through 6
Yeah, not
by
even
a long
close.
shot.
As it should
Yeah.
be. As it should be.
Um,
What's the difference
we
between, hold on, am I missing something between 8 through 12?
so 10 goes off with perfect invocation. I assume it looks like down below underneath the image. Double sixes is the new term. Perfect invocation is the new irresistible force terminology that they're using. So 8 and 9
Hmm.
goes off at base casting value, but 10 through 12 goes off with irresistible force
Okay.
or perfect invocation.
Yeah, that makes sense. I wish they just capitalized perfect invocation in 10 through 12. That would have popped. That would at least pop out a little bit easier. But good spot. I didn't notice it. So yeah, so even if you roll Snake Eyes and then you roll a 10 through 12, it's as if you rolled Boxcars when you cast the spell. That's cool. Okay, interesting. What's next? What's up, Mike?
Yeah.
Michael. He is a big fella at Nova, and he helped me um run the Nova event for Fantasy. So that was pretty cool. What's up, dude? Let's see. As of right now, Brett's only have a 3-up save, so basically they just get their ward save if they have one. Uh,
What's interesting too is I wonder, so this is the first time that dwarves ever get to miscast. Enjoy the luxury of miscasting.
the luxury.
Yeah. So I'm curious if they're gonna put like maybe a dwarf specific thing where dwarves can't miscast on dispelling
Hmm.
attempts.
I think they
I don't
probably
know, that might
dwarves.
that
There you
might
go.
be too much. But like I said, I was curious about that, where it's like, oh yeah, there's these armies that never have dealt with this before, and now it's a thing for them.
Uh,
I also don't know what happens when, like, let's just say player A who's casting the spell miscast, it barely goes off, or sorry, they miscast, then it's barely controlled power, so the spell goes off, then the spelling player miscast, right? And then rolls the same result. Like, that seems
well, hold
weird.
on. The dispelling player, he can't miscast, can he? He can only roll. If he rolls Snake Eyes, it doesn't hurt him. It's only if he rolls Boxcars, right? Yeah,
No,
I
am I
think
reading that
that's
wrong?
I think so. I could be wrong too.
No, it's dispelling no matter the casting result, but should you roll a double one, you've been outclassed in the art. It's
Yeah,
bolded,
that means you auto fail. Oh
and you
no, and
must
you must
roll the
roll in the.
miscast.
That's
Yeah,
stupid.
yeah. So dwarf players get to enjoy the
What?
miscast tabor. Maybe that's why they got rid of sucked into the warp, was
What?
because they didn't want dwarf players to be mad about their rune lord getting sucked into the warp.
I mean,
Always
I'd be
catering
kind
to
of pissed at that too if I was a
oh,
dwarf player.
always catering to the dwarf
Now they
players.
can experience it. Zombie. It's just the wizard, not the player. So if you have multiple wizards and one can no longer cast, or one rolls that result on the miscast table, it's just that wizard. It's not every single wizard. That'd be nasty.
They also mentioned that if there's no wizard in range to dispel, you can make what's called a fated dispel
Right.
once per turn. So basically, you get to roll 2 dice unmodified.
Yep.
Um, so, but they said that there's certain armies that have
Like
innate
innate
resistance is what they
resistance.
use.
So resistance is, I assume it's basically going to be, I think they've shown a couple units with it. So if you have MR -1, it means when someone tries to cast a hex spell at your unit from the enemy, it's like -1 to the dice roll. Basically, you're adding 1 to the difficulty of the spell for the enemy to cast on you.
Yeah, but this is my issue always with
They
relying on like
probably.
magic resistance or having armies with heavy magic resistance as your magic defense.
Hmm.
Oftentimes it's the buff spells that kill you. Like it's not necessarily like
Yes.
the magic missiles, like the fireball, right?
Hmm.
There's certain spells that
Yeah.
will do that. I'm not trying to say there's not, but there's a lot of spells that just,
It's the
you know,
-D3 to your strength or -D3 to your toughness, withering or enfeebling foe. That's just like, okay, cool. Now my unit is neutered and it's going to get picked up by whatever is in combat with it. Yeah,
yeah, or even if like your magic resistance doesn't help you with all my empire prayers, right? Under Warhammer's Armies project,
true.
right? And
Yeah.
it's like, if I get a bunch of those off, like your unit's got a high chance to
Yeah.
have a bad day.
Ratcatcher, that would be annoying if they had a 5-point rune that did that. Okay, let's look at the Handmaidens of the Lady. So this is a prophetess, which is basically a level 3 or 4, and then a damsel, which is level 1 or 2. 25 mil, as most people have seen and expected. They get battle magic, elementalism, and illusion. Elementalism, that might give you like flaming attacks or ice attacks or maybe some kind of fireball stuff. Battle magic, I think they have a couple of the uh, sample spells in either this article or the one of the next two. Illusion, I'm not sure what illusion is. Could be like -1 to hit my unit or something like that. But you can see they don't show her points, but you can see she can 30 points to upgrade as a wizard, and then same as it used to be, 100 points for a lord, and then 50 points for a hero. They have Aura of the Lady, Blessings of the Lady, Lore of the Lady, which I don't think they show. They don't show here. MR -2, so that's pretty good for her unit, which if she's on foot and joins some men-at-arms, or if she hops on a warhorse and she hops into a unit of knights. No idea what Shield of the Lady is. Maybe that lets you, maybe that's her special rule, which lets her sit in the center of the unit. I don't know.
It's interesting how they did magic resist. So typically it's magic resist 2, but that almost looks like it's -2.
It is.
So I
Yep.
wonder if it just reduces the casting value. So your spell doesn't, it's not that you're better at defending, it's just that your opponent, it's harder to cast his spell on you. That
I
makes
said that.
sense.
I said
Oh, is
that,
that what you said?
Jonesy.
I'm sorry.
Gosh. Jonesy, guys, what are we going to do with this
Yeah.
guy? But yeah, I think that's exactly how it works. I completely agree. I think that's what happens. Whoa, she can go on a Pegasus now? Okay. That might be the first time I've ever seen a damsel be able to go onto a Pegasus, unless you're like Dark Elves or something and you go on a Pegasus. But that's cool. That'll make it her very, very usable to fly around the map and be within range to dispel things from enemy wizards. But obviously, it makes her very vulnerable to shooting and magic missiles. But so as you can see, unicorns, if you're monstrous cavalry or monsters, instead of just having its own toughness and all that other stuff, it just gives the character +1 to wound, at least for this unicorn. I'm guessing a monster is like 4 or 5 or something crazy.
Yeah, we'll see stuff like monsters
Mhm.
and later articles, the hippogriff specifically.
So Armor Bane 2, Unicorn only. So Armor Bane, I think they discussed that in one of the previous articles. If you roll a 6 to wound, it gets that AP or AB2. So its normal strength 4 attacks do not have a modifier to your armor save, but if it rolls a 6, then there you go. Now, the equipment hooves and horns, I've noticed in other things that each weapon has a specific like minus to your armor save and then armor bane. So if you're a dragon with like claws and stuff, you could have like the claw has its own stat line, and then it's going to have AP 1 or 2 depending on what it is. So Stomp's back, just like in 8th edition. So monster stuff has Stomp. Countercharge is pretty cool, and looks like natural armor is now called Armored Hide. So it gives her a little initiative 5. That's pretty good.
Be curious on what beguiling aura is.
That
But
is
I
a good
like how
question.
they did this.
Mm,
I would take an homage to the like old Thunderwolf Cav, how they did old Thunderwolf Cav, where it's just kind of got boosted stats.
sure.
Overall back in old 40K.
Hmm.
But I also like, I don't know if this was a take from Warhammer's Armies project, but I like this setup of just, you're on a unicorn, you get an extra wound, or if you're on a dragon, potentially maybe you get more toughness and wounds. I don't know.
Yep.
I'm just speculating.
And now they I don't even know what I was gonna say. Whatever. Beguiling aura. I'm guessing that's usually like a calming thing. So maybe it does something against magic casters. It like makes something else on top stacks. Because who knows? Who knows? Maybe it gives you plus leadership or something. Okay, so looks like her basic. She's as a battle magic user, but she's not only battle magic, so she can also do Lore of the Lady as it showed up above. So, Illusionist may cast Glittering Robe. Okay, cool. All right, so Hammer Hand is battle magic. This is the signature spell. Goes also on a 7, and it's 2d3, strength 4 with AP 2. Not great, so it's basically on average going to be 4 hits at AP 2. AP 2 is not bad because that's better than a D6 Fireball that used to be, because the Fireball used to only be strength 4, so it's only -1, and you'd only get like 3 or 4 hits. So this is at least an additional one, but there's no. It says ranged combat. Oh, so you're stuck in combat on this one.
Mhm.
Yikes! You don't want that to be. You
It is
definitely don't
true
want your
battle
Lure of the
magic.
Lady up in. Say what?
It is true battle magic.
Yes.
You gotta be in the battle.
In the fray. In the fray. Not
Wait,
bad, not a great spell, but it's just a signature, so hopefully you can do that plus another one. This one's good. Signature spell takes an 8 though. Until the start of your start of turn subphase, you're -1 to be hit against the caster in any unit they have joined. And it doesn't say shooting or close combat, so that means it should be both. That's pretty good on an 8, and that's your signature spell. It's a pretty good signature. That's
What
much better than Hammer Hand as a signature spell.
what
Easily.
this glittering robes spell showed us was the spell cast. You know, basically you can't make a unit go Super Saiyan, right? With like 3 types of buffs, right? And
Hmm.
just go full ham into another unit, right? It seems like these enchantment spells, you know, you're only gonna let you get one off on a
One per
unit.
unit. Yep. Which is
And
great.
so
Which is good.
yeah, I think it's a way to really balance the game where you're not taking these like, you know, all these little tiny little wizards all over the place and trying to make one unit go Super Saiyan
Hmm.
with all these buffs, you know, strength, toughness, attacks, frenzy, hatred, whatever they have
Right.
in this game.
So it looks like we have enough people on. I've asked for confirmation, but I'm just gonna tease this little thing right here. Ha, ha, ha. Oh,
Oh,
oh, it's
green screen fail.
I know,
Sorry.
green screen failing. Here is the mighty rulebook. I can't show you the contents. I don't know why this green screen's failing so bad, but it's failing really bad right now. Okay, so we're just gonna. Sadly, I can't go through that with y'all right now.
Well,
I
you just gotta
trust
rip
me,
off the
I am
plastic.
dying to open this up and show it to y'all, but you're gonna have to wait. Don't worry, it's not gonna be long now. So just stay patient. We'll get there. Okay, Storm Call. You wanna tell me what Storm Call does?
So it's a hex, means that you have to cast it against your opponent's units, casting value 7 inches, range 12. Again, really short range spell.
Mm-hmm.
It is a signature spell, so until the start of your next turn sub phase, the target enemy unit suffers -1 to its movement initiative characteristics to minimum 1. And then it's the same thing as enchantments. You can't multi-hex a unit, right? You can only cast 1 hex on them at a time, or have one
Mm-hmm.
hex on them in effect at a time, I should say.
Now, you think there's got to be some abilities where there's like a unique hex spell, maybe specific to a unit that only gets like that you can double cast a hex or an enchantment on, right?
Yeah,
Maybe a
I
bound
would
spell of some kind, maybe.
I would think that like micro hexes, if that's the phrase to use or
Sure.
something, where it's like you got these like, you know, smaller hexes. I could imagine Nurgle, for example, right? Where you're trying to slowly debuff and slowly decay your opponent's unit. Might excuse me, might have something where, you know, you can some of these effects stack or they can stack.
Right. Look, I don't know if you saw what the rat catcher said, but he said, hypothetically, how much do we have to pay you? Like, sure. So I could totally go through this book right now and get in a lot of trouble. So you pay for my legal fees, my stress, and everything else. Sure, yeah, we could do it. That'd be pretty expensive though. So we're
Next
not
10 years of salary too. Don't forget that, Blue.
10 years of salary.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, that'd be. Oh, thanks, Crusader. Appreciate that. Okay. That's it for that article. That's actually a pretty short article, but it does give you some insight into like some of the, at least the lores and what types of abilities they'll be doing. So let's get out of that one.
Do you
Next.
do you have any like summarizing thoughts on Magic? Just, you
Um.
know, short 30 seconds or so.
Okay. So I like how it's going to speed up the game. It's going to be much easier for new players to get into, especially those that just started in 40K and maybe they just started in the 9th edition or something, or even Age of Sigmar. It's a lot easier to shift from that game to this one instead of having to be like, okay, I have to roll 2d6, that's how many dice I get, then I have to roll channels for each one, and then only this one can use this and this can use that, and each spell takes a 10 or plus to get off and having to divvy out dice. It'll speed the game up and it's a much smoother process. A lot of people are going to miss the old ways of like being able to bait out dice because it's a tactic. Like it was a very tactical phase of the game, Magic, when you're trying to bait out dice, trying to force them to dispel this one spell so then you can get off this spell, or maybe you're baiting the bait. I mean, that's what I think. I think it's gonna be a lot cleaner, a lot easier for newer players. It's gonna be very easy to understand. I don't think it's gonna be as OP as older editions, but I also haven't dove into like the Purple Sun type spells. I haven't seen those yet, just because I haven't looked because I'm getting bombarded with stuff. So I'm trying to go slow and not just skim everything at once. That's my thought.
Yeah, I do. I do wonder about those more powerful spells if their casting values is something along the lines of like 12, right? Just base casting value of
Sure.
12
Sure.
plus or
Yeah.
14 plus. Just see what happens there where you really do need to have a level 3 or level 4 wizard to realistically ever get it off.
hmm
But I agree with you on all your points otherwise, where I do think it's a lot easier to get into the game, understand magic, made it much simpler for people to learn.
All right. Next article: Living Saints and Special Rules. So the classic 6th edition Grail Knights that look amazing. They're 38 points a model. That's pretty darn pricey. But they come with weapon skill 6, strength and toughness 4, initiative 5, 2 attacks, leadership 9. Okay. But weapon skill 6 is new. I've never seen a weapon skill 6. They've only ever been 5. I think in WAP they're toughness 4, but I think in 8th edition, I think they were only toughness 3 in 8th edition, but they were still strength 4. So they got a weapon skill buff and a toughness buff. 30 by 60, as most heavy cavalry are nowadays. So be careful basing. Not everything is going to go up to 30 by 60. Most things are. So just wait. If you're thinking about rebasing stuff, just wait, because you don't want to get too base too large and then have to go back or something. So just be patient. All the rules are going to drop on a certain day, and then you can instantly start working in new movement trays, whatever you need to do. So they come with lances, heavy armor, and shields. Iron shod hooves counts as a hand weapon and barding. So a heavy weapon is what? Is that a 5-up save? 5 up?
Heavy armor? Yes,
5
I
up.
believe that's what it was in 7th and 8th.
So we got a shield, barding. They have to have more than a 3-up. That would be awful. But
Well,
maybe that's all they have now.
I was gonna say, the next paragraph underneath the picture actually says they have a 3-up.
Wait,
So,
what?
yeah,
Where?
last line of the next paragraph. It's a little smaller. Same line as the armor bane.
Oh, yeah, have a 3-up save. Okay, so they have a 3-up save. So they used to have a 2-up save in 8th edition because the mounted buff, as I think it was Crusader that mentioned that before. Who cares? One of the
So
two.
yeah,
There's a couple
30,
of them.
38 points for a Grail
Those.
Knight. I mean, you get a lot of stuff.
You
You
get
a
an
lot of
Empire
rules.
Captain.
Yeah, I mean,
Basically.
yeah, that Grail Guardian is an Empire Captain. Better, web skill 6.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's very
Like,
good.
I guess BS2. I guess that's the trade-off. You're not BS5, you're only BS2.
So it is
But
interesting that all the command. So in 8th edition, basically all the command, unless it was an older book like Skaven, Beastman, and Bretonnia, they were all 10 points per unit to upgrade to a champion and everything. So I don't know if it's 7 points across the board or if it's just 7 points for Grail Knights, and then if it's like Men at Arms, it's only 5 or something.
I do wonder about that specifically for Grail Knights because one of the rules, which talks about it later on, living saints, they all can accept challenges.
Is what they used to be able to. That's what they used to be able
So
to do.
yeah, so I wonder if champions are going to be able to accept challenges now.
They should.
Maybe
I don't think
the
they would take that
sacrificial
away.
champion. So I just wonder if that's maybe considered with that 7-point value across the board
Okay.
for all those. Be curious on maybe some future articles showing some detail.
Well, it's interesting that a Magic Standard up to 100 points. 100 points for a Magic Standard in just a unit. It's crazy. And then obviously champions can take up to 50 points of magic items themselves. So you could have 150 points in this unit of just magic items. So wait, hold on. Hold on, I just noticed this. A Grail Guardian, which is basically the champion, can take a Knight Virtue. So that means you could give him the Killing Blow Virtue that you used to be able to. That's insane. And then he can also take up 50 points of magic items.
Reminds me of Blood Knights.
Yeah, they're basically Blood Knights at this point.
Yeah.
They are different per unit. Thank you. Thank you, Yvain. So that's basically Blood Knights, is what they should be, because they're basically this. In fluff wise, Grail Knights can take out a whole army by themselves. So first,
so 3 knights, right? 3 knights, minimum unit size, 3 knights, right? So math on stream, 114 base plus 21 for all the upgrades, plus another 150 for but that's not also counting the knightly virtue. I don't know how much those are worth.
No, it's
Uh,
150 plus you can take a single knight virtue. So I don't know
yeah,
the cost of the virtues, but it's that on top of that. So
yeah. So
that
you're
unit
looking
can
at
get dumb expensive. So there's,
yeah,
if you take a unit of 6 of them, that's basically 25% of your rare right there. Wow, that's insane.
yeah, easy.
Easy. So they
Yeah.
have countercharge, which is good. I'm guessing most cav units have countercharge, as it would make sense. Finest war horses, that used to be, it's like you ignored the barding, um, -1 movement for barding. Lance formation, obviously, we know it's the wedge now. Living Saints, that's the challenges. Swift Stride, the Grail Vow. Grail Vow, let's see. With heavy armor shields, they have a 3-up save. Okay, so lances, I like how each weapon is going to have something specific. So lances give you +2 strength, -2 AP, and then on a 6 to wound, it gives you an extra AP. Only be used in the turn you charge. So then you charge with the lance, you get all that special bonus stuff, and then you switch to your hand weapon. So if you get charged, obviously you don't get the +2, you don't get the armor bane, you don't get the AP. You just with the hand weapon. So make sure you're charging. And obviously it talks about what armor bane is right here. That's good.
So yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that kind of this brought up was just it seems like armor is going to be overall devalued. I mean, 3-up for Bretonian knights, considered some of the heaviest knights in the game. Uh, right there makes me think that Empire Knights are only going to have a 2-up.
Same
Armor
with Chaos
save,
Knights. They probably only
yeah,
going to have a
same thing
2-up.
with Chaos Knights. But I mean, a 3-up save, I mean, there's a huge difference between a 2-up and a 3-up.
17%.
Uh, yeah, I mean, just the consistency of the rolls of the law of averages, I guess is what I'm trying to say, or just getting hot, right? It's a lot easier to get hot on 2-ups and 3-ups.
Very,
Um,
very.
so seems like things are going to be dying pretty, pretty well in the old world.
Well,
Dueling
also if you
wounds.
saw, I think they've shown longbows, right? So longbows, I think in one of the other articles that their strength of the user, if I'm not mistaken, but then their armor bane 1. So if you roll a 6 to wound, your like peasant longbow is going to be AP 1. So like your Empire Knight's going to be saving on a 3-up. Like you can like archers are going to be able to take down some dudes. What'd you say? Let's see. It's old school chosen champions could take 25 points of magic items. Okay, cool. We saw that in 8th. Oftentimes, those dudes didn't get much value out of items because they could be easily killed in challenges. Yeah, with only 1 wound and you're like stuck in a challenge, like your initiative's 5, which isn't bad. I did see that lances don't give an initiative bonus, but they did hint in some of the other articles that charging will give you some kind of initiative bonus. I know what it is, but obviously I can't say. But it's at least 1. Maybe, actually, I guess, depending on how. No, it has to be at least 1. It has to be at least 1 because they're still going to have that 1-inch rule, at least I would assume. So, close order. What does this have to do with this? Skirmish, fast cap. Stomp attacks. Actually, do horses get stomp? I don't think so, right? No stomp. Okay, so stomp is
Yeah.
just going to be no impact hits either. So in Warhammer's Armies project, I really liked cavalry getting impact hits, and it would just be at the base strength of the warhorse. So in this case, the Bretonian warhorse is strength 3. You would just get in a wedge formation. I guess it would be like 5 or whatever. 5 impact hits to strength 3. Not huge, but it definitely did help when you could like buff the unit up and other things. Close order. Okay, that just talked about like universal special rules and blah blah blah. Special rules for the lady. The blessing of the lady is an army-wide rule for the Kingdom of Bretonia. Okay, so it's like what they used to do. So instead of rolling to go first, you get down on one knee and you're praying to the lady and all that good stuff. So you get a 6-up invul. Wait, why does it say invul? That should say. Well,
Well,
it's in
it's
parentheses.
6.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm stupid.
it's
So it's a 6-up against any wounds, and then a 5-up versus strength 5 or more, or higher. So that's good. And then you could lose it, I'm guessing, fleeing or declining a challenge or whatever. But I think that's what it was in 8th edition, right? Was that what it was in
Uh,
8th?
yes, that's how it was in 7th. And I know Bretonians didn't get an 8th edition book. Sorry
No,
to
they did
tear up,
not.
sorry to tear up those wounds, but
Okay, so 6
yeah.
up
So
board
that
army
seems like
wide.
the
Fine.
copy and paste from 7th edition, as far as I can tell, as a player who's never played Bretonians but
Yeah.
has um played against them quite a few
Well,
times.
I'm curious if that also transcends over to. It never used to go to peasants. I'm guessing it still doesn't. Let's see. In the Yeah, Blessings of the Lady is a special rule, so I'm guessing since it's not actually army wide, it's only going to be people with blessing. It does say army wide, but there's no way that a men at arms on foot is just going to have the Blessing of the Lady. You used to have to take that prayer icon of Quinellus, I think that's what it was called, that gave you put it like on a damsel or a dude on foot, and you put him in the men at arms unit, and then they got that. Okay, finest war horses. Oh, this is actually different. So it's not you ignore the barding. Maybe there's no penalty for barding now, but you reroll ones when you charge. First charge. Wow, that's actually really friggin' good. Fine, listen to this. Okay. You reroll ones when you charge, flee, or pursue before discarding any dice. It's really strong. If their first charge of the game makes contact, the target loses its rank bonus until the next round of combat. And that's not even Lance Formation. Lance Formation allows Fraternity Knights to form their signature devastating charge formation, offer them a choice between this and Close Order. Okay, so I would probably do Countercharge is really good. That's going to be interesting. So depending on the wedge formations, you're going to need to choose if you're going to want to go for First Charge / Finest Warhorses or Close Order and Countercharge. Huh. That's kind of neat. So if you're trying to bait out a charge, you obviously go for the countercharge. And if you need to like slam home and break a unit, you take the. Huh, that's cool. I like that. That gives you some unique. I'm a fan. No, they did not have that rule. Thank you. Appreciate that. I hate how they didn't change this. I literally never met a player. Yeah, basically every player will play or will pray. I've never seen anyone not pray. Jonesy, you're muted. You are still muted. I think you're muted in
Yeah,
Zoom. There you go.
yeah.
What you got?
Apologies.
Yeah.
I was saying, what happens if you countercharge and you hit the countercharge? Does that count as your first charge? But also, what's
I don't think so.
interesting is that it's I don't know if they meant this with if like finest war horses are only going to be like a Bretonian rule, right?
Probably.
Um, but you don't need to be in lance formation to benefit from it. You can be in your traditional, I guess, close order formation and still benefit. But I've also, to follow up on your last point, I've seen one Bretonian player not pray. Um, and they like trounced their opponent because basically they set up on the line. Their opponent set up on the line thinking that they were going to get all these turn one charges. They rolled off. Bretonian player won the roll off.
Oh
It just
no. Was
yeah,
that
just
the
smoked.
12-inch one where it's a meeting engagement, I think?
I think so.
It's
I think
like
it was one
12
of
inches in
those.
between y'all, and if you all set up on the line, all those horses are making a charge.
Yeah, he just like absolutely housed the guy. It
Ouch.
was yeah,
Ouch.
yeah. Uh, that can just be aware. That's the thing that could happen.
All right, Living Saints. It's even okay. It's not the. Oh no, they can individually issue challenges. Swift Stride gives you a further 3 inches to your maximum charge range and D6 to any charge, flight, or pursuit. So basically, to any, you're rolling 3d6 and adding 3? Or is it, what's your max charge range now? Is it just, it's 2d6 plus your movement, right?
Hold up, I'm trying to think.
Isn't it
The Swift
2d6 plus
stride
your
just
movement?
plus D adds a further 3 inches. Goblin bosses, watch out. Swift stride adds a further 3 inches to your maximum charge. So I'm guessing that if you have Swift stride, you roll like a D3 for charging, but then you get the extra die.
Hold on, I'm reading this as, what's your max charge range? It's if you're infantry, it's 2d6, you pick the
Choose the
highest of
highest.
the roll, and you add your movement. So let's say you're movement 4, your max charge range is 10. If you have Swift Stride, your max charge range is 13. But see, that's what's weird. It says it adds 3 inches to your maximum charge range, not to your actual dice roll. So does that mean... That's confusing. So it's like you get an extra D6 to your given charge, flight, or pursue, but the max you could basically get is like an extra 3 from that dice. Well, 3 on one of the dice, as long as one is a 3, it's the extra 3. But
Yeah, that's a very confusing way they worded this.
I'll just have to read this and it'll tell me.
Yeah.
No. So I'm confused. Okay, so if you're cavalry, charging is 2d6 plus your movement. You're Bretonian cavalry, your movement 8, so you can go 20 inches.
Yep.
So you're saying you can go 23 inches. But that means, okay, so if you roll 3d6, the max you can get on there is a 15. So even if you roll an 18, you're not going to charge 26 inches. The max you will charge is 23. I think that's what that's saying. Okay.
Yeah, I think.
Okay, I'm cool with
I
that.
think.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
I think that makes sense.
That's
So
weird.
Swift Stride is more powerful, right? Because it actually adds to your distance, right? Where
Well,
previously you used to have
no, because they
consistency.
limit your maximum. If they didn't have this sentence where it adds 3 inches further, then you could. It's actually the extra d6 could get you 18 inches plus your 8, so it could get you 26. So this limits you. It limits your max. It limits your max. So that's
But
fine.
in previous editions, you only got to choose let's just say your cavalry, you only got to choose the two highest. So you can only get movement plus 12. Now you can get movement plus 15,
15, right?
right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Plus you also, this is statistical Jonesy
Could be
talking, but
zombie. Yeah.
your standard deviation is also much closer to the average of those 3 dice, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So now you have a lot more consistency of hitting those
Yep.
movement plus 10-inch charges, I'll say, right? 10 or 11-inch charges. You have way more consistency there.
Yeah,
than
because
in
if somehow
previous
you only
editions.
roll a 9 on all 3 dice, you get to use all 9.
Yeah, you get to maximize your 9.
Okay, that's interesting.
Your minimum charge is movement plus 3, right?
Yeah.
So you get an extra inch.
Okay, let's continue.
Interesting.
Yeah, very. The Grail Vow gives you magical attacks. You're immune to fear and terror, like you used to be. And I like this. The first time they fail a break test, they automatically fall back in good order. So that's good and bad. You could, knowing that as the player and your opponent, you can use that to your advantage to set up good flank charges, etc. But that also means you won't lose the blessing of the lady because you don't break, since you don't flee. Sorry, since those are different terms, they mean different things. Okay, interesting. Top of that, blah 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 blah. Let's see. Grant and Virtue of Impetuous Knight to extend your close range. Oh, they're just giving an example. Okay. So yeah, here's one of the virtues. A model with this virtue gains the Impetuous special rule. In addition, this model and his unit increase their maximum charge range by 3. So they could do it again? Okay. Finally, when this model and its unit makes a charge roll, you may apply a plus D3 modifier to the result. Okay, so with the Impetuous, you're going 3d6 plus d3 with the max charge range of plus 6, because it's 3 from this and then 3 from the finest warhorses, right?
Yes, 15 on the 3 dice is the max, and then 3 inches from the D3.
Okay. So you could
So-
now go 26 inches.
So do you
Gotcha.
like turn 1 charges? Is that what you're saying?
Do you
Blue?
like turn 1 charges? Do you want to throw 6 Grail Knights and a Lord and a BSB and a Damsel 26 inches across the field?
I mean, that's what
Pick this virtue.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. You can
God.
give them the dragon. Okay, so I
That's
don't know if
something-
these are generic weapons or if they are Bretonian specific ones, but Dragon Slaying Sword. Strength of the user, magical attack, Monster Slayer. I don't know if they've discussed what Monster Slayer is, but it's basically heroic killing blow.
Ooh.
Ooh. I think someone else in one of the other articles had Monster Slayer. Just don't know. I do remember seeing it, I just don't remember who had it. But yes, that's basically heroic killing blow. for monsters and for big stuff. Does not work on a character.
So is it like more than 3 wounds monster, or is it 3 wounds and up, kind of?
I
Like,
think it
does an ogre
was
count, or
I
is it
think it was
monsters
specific
infantry?
to unit type,
Okay.
so it didn't specify wounds. I'm guessing here. The blazing banner, you get flaming attacks. Whatever flaming attacks do, maybe it's obviously would probably get rid of regen and probably maybe causes fear in cavalry and stuff like it used to.
I just want the hard counter Bretonian army against the wood elves, where they just,
Yeah,
you know,
all
you
the
take Grail
great
Knights with magical
Bergère.
attacks and then flaming attacks on top of it, just like
Oh yeah.
burning through.
Well, I don't know what's going to happen with wood elves, and are they going to still have that magic attack denies their forest spirit save, or maybe they get something else?
They become demons.
They
That's the
become
only
demons.
logical.
Let's see. Universal special rules just talks about this again. Elite units such as Grail Knights. Blah blah blah. Move through cover. Open order. Peasantry. Skirmishers. Skirmishers is very cool now. They didn't go into all the details in one of the articles, but looking through it, it's very interesting. Skirmisher on skirmisher combat is going to be kind of cool too. Vanguard. Okay. Next, I think that's it for that article. Let's go to the next one. Mustering the grand army of Bretonia. So follow the Lord to the king, basically.
For the lady.
For the lady. Universal special rules. Blah 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 blah. Cool fluff. Great art. Love the art. Building your army. Understanding army comp rules. Characters. Basically, there is no such thing as a lord or a hero now. They're just characters. Core. Da, da, da. Just talks about this. In addition, summary. Every faction will have a grand army. You see that? Oh, I don't know what the asterisk means. I don't like it though. But it says every army will have a grand army upon release. It's a balanced list. Basically, it's like, hey, if you want to play what an old world army from Warhammer Fantasy actually would look like fluffy-wise, here it is. You have to take minimum of this, minimum of that. You can take max of that, max of this, max of that. Here it is. The Kingdom of Bretonia Grand Army. Let's see. Can I zoom in a little bit?
So the asterisk means
It's not
even the
letting me.
PDF factions get a grand army.
Does it say that?
Yeah, if at the very bottom.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're a little fuzzy. I think the camera needs to focus on you a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're a little fuzzy, buddy.
All right, let me.
Oh, you little. Okay, so characters. So this is what I do not like about this edition. And I was told I'm allowed to be real. I can say good and bad. I do not like characters being 50% of your army. I know that's what it was in 8th edition, but it was split. So then you couldn't take, let's say you're playing a 2,000 point list, you couldn't take 1,000 points in Lords. You could only take 500. Now you can take 1,000. Well, Lords. Let's say Lord level characters now. So you can only have one Duke. You can have up to one Baron or Prophetess, so that's a level 4 or 3 per 1,000 points. So in 8th edition, let's say you're playing 2,000 points, you have 500 points to spend. You could probably take 2 level 3s. You probably couldn't take 2 level 4s with good saves and good items. You could take 2 basic ones that'll die really easily. So that's like a give and take. But now you could take 1 Duke and you could put him on like a big Hippogriff, and you could put a big Baron up on a Hippogriff. And it just seems, I don't like Hero Hammer when it comes to fantasy. Obviously, if it's a grand army would have a ridiculous amount of foot sloggers and cavalry and all sorts of other chaff, but the characters would not be the main focus. Yes, if you're in the fluff, like it's a knife's point or a wedge in this case. A wedge is where the character like breaks through the lines and all this other stuff, but that's just my opinion. Just my opinion. So, like, let's say if you're Empire, and let's say it says you can have 0 to 1 generals of the Empire per 1,000 points. So that means you could run 2 big generals of the Empire on Griffins, and that could be what, 600 points maybe. And then you could also have a level 4. So you could have 2 giant monsters and a level 4, or like an altar or something running around. I don't like that. So that makes it look more like Age of Sigmar-ish. When, like, say you're playing ogres, you have like 5 of the big mammoth dudes. Like, I don't like that. I think if I'm going to be running events, I'm probably going to cut that down a little bit, maybe 40% for characters since they're combined. I'll have to figure that out or do a lot of play testing, make it balanced for everyone because some armies need characters more than others. But yeah, okay. Sorry to go on.
No, I
Core,
mean,
go ahead. Yeah,
oh,
please. Yeah,
I
your
was just gonna
opinion.
say, or you can make it 0 to 1 per 2,000, right? For the Baron and
Sure.
Prophetess, right? Where it
Yes.
kind of,
Right.
there's different ways to adjust this.
Mm-hmm. And I wonder what a sergeant in arms is. Did they discuss that in one of the other articles?
I do not
Hmm.
know. I don't know Bretonnians well enough. I guess that's a
It's like a Templar, I
not.
guess, in terms of WAP or something, maybe.
If I had to take a guess,
Hmm.
it's a Men-at-Arms character. If you had to make a character out of a Men-at-Arms guy,
That would be cool. I would really like that.
yeah.
I
So I don't
really
know
like
how
Men at
Bretonnians
Arms,
work.
and
Yeah.
I love halberdiers and stuff. They look sweet. Okay. Uh, Zombie. Um, I'm just gonna say, don't care if this gets me in trouble or whatever, but it's game wide. It is not just Bretonnians, so that's why I'm not a huge fan because it is game wide. Um, Everything is going to have 50% characters. They wouldn't just limit it to Bretonia. It's going to be game wide. So every faction is going to be up to 50% characters that I know of, potentially.
So I also wonder, I'll let you go on with the core stuff, but I also wonder with this Grand Army composition, if this is like the new um, base army, like this is the base army composition
Yeah,
for the list, or if it's like I can't remember that 40K formation where you had to take like 6 tactical squads, you had to take
sure.
3, you know what I mean, where it took a little bit of everything and it was more of a formation
Hmm.
and maybe gave you some extra perks and benefits. But again, that's
Yeah, this is
I'd be
kind
curious
of.
on how they do that.
This reminds me of 1 HQ, 2 troops. That kind of
Yes.
thing.
Okay.
So, but what I'm guessing, I think in one of these articles it talks about armies of like not infamy, but it's something. So basically, I'm guessing there's another kind instead of a grand army composition. There's other types of compositions that allow, um, like so you see in core you have to take a unit of Knights of the Realm. You have to take a unit of men at arms and or peasant bowmen. There's probably an army. I think it's Army Infamy. Y'all correct me. I can't remember what it's called. But there could be a composition where you're not mandatory to take men at arms. So you could do a whole cavalry force. Um, Probably. Let's see. Up to 50% special. No limitations on squires, questing knights, Pegasus, or mounted yeomen. So that's what's weird to me. So if I could take 50%, let's say 30% in characters, 25% in core, and I could take 30, maybe not 30, I could take 10 units of squires. There's no limit on squires unless there's something in Bretonnian book, but I could just it 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 allows spamming um, of some units. Obviously, you can't spam battle pilgrims, you can't spam knights errant or knights of the realm on foot, but some units, Pegasus knights, I could take. I don't know how many points there are a piece. Let's just say it's 150 for 3. You could take like 7 units of 3 Pegasus Knights. Look cool. I mean, that'd be a cool flying army, but I don't know. I just don't really like the whole spam thing. Infamy. Thank you. Thank you. Was infamy.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, this is when you start seeing stuff like the 1+ units, Knights of the Realm, 1 unit of Men at Arms.
Zoom in.
I understand maybe trying to have certain armies look a certain way and certain consistency, but this makes me
There
feel
we
like
go.
there's gonna be like the 1 unit of 10 Men at Arm random, 10 random Men at Arms that have no upgrades in every single Bretonnian list, right? Or 10 peasant bowmen, right? That
Sure.
don't have any upgrades in every, just because in their mind it's a tax that they just have to do to play,
Right.
to field a proper army.
There you go. See.
And then, as you said, you can just start heavily investing into uh, the units you want to spam, right? So it kind
Okay.
of, you know, like I said, I think men-at-arms are cool. They look cool. I rarely see them on the battlefield. It's cool to see them when they're in
Hmm.
big blocks of 20, 25, when people invest into them and seeing what they can do. But I don't know if this is the route Games Workshop is going to try to make that happen more consistently, or if
Hmm.
it's just, I don't know if this is the right way to go about it to do that,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah. And I do like. Okay, so this I don't like it, but for this was kind of end times ish, where up to 25% of your army you can take allies. So you can take 25% of your army from the Army of Infamy composition list, but then oh, it's right there. Stupid. But then you can, gosh, you can also then ally in dwarves, empire, high elves, and wood elves. So I just don't know how I feel about that when Bretonnian can ally dwarves. Don't get me wrong, I totally get it, especially if you're a big Total War fan because you can ally with them and you can do coordinated battles all the time. But classic fantasy, I know there were options for it in some books or some editions. Um, I'm not going to hate on it because some people like it, like the lore and the stories when people, I like that too, but when they come together and fight a common enemy, but when they're just like chummy the entire time for, I don't know. I don't know if I ever run allies in this regard. I like mono books. It's like when I run demons, I like mono god because I don't know, I just do. Um, But when you see Bretonia cavalry with a bunch of Wood Elf Weight Watchers or Treekin or Treeman, like that just seems. Now, for lore based games, I think that would be very cool. For narrative battles, for a narrative campaign or narrative tournament, I think that would be very cool. But for regular tournaments, like competitive ones, don't think that should be allowed. That just throws a wrench in there when you're trying to. You can cover all your weaknesses too easily. Some armies, or maybe that's good. Maybe that's good. Maybe it should be more like chess in that regard instead of rock paper scissors. I don't know. What do you think? What do y'all think? Y'all tell me. Do y'all
I mean,
agree with it?
one question I have, just looking at the article and this setup is it says up to 50% of your army's point value. Is that this specific army, or is that considered what you bring to the table army? Because when you start allying in, start doing these allies, 25%, is that at 2,000 points? Is that
I see what you're saying.
500 points? Or is that just, let's just say you're doing 1,000 points? Or is that 250 points, right?
Zombie in the chat basically asked the same thing. His question
Okay.
was, I wonder if you take a rare unit from an allied list, does that also count towards your 25% rare limit? From based on what I'm looking at, just reading the composition rules, it says for rare, up to 25% of your army's points value. It doesn't say of like the Bretonnian army list, it says your army's points. So I would say yes. So if of your allies, of your 25% of your allies, you spend 15% on rare, that means from your Bretonnia list, you can only spend another 10% in rare to have 25% total. So that's
So
man, that
so
means you
you're
could
saying
take
it
like
looks,
you could take dwarf artillery and then have a bunch of like or empire artillery. I mean,
yeah,
whatever. And then just take a whole bunch of fast cavalry. It's gonna be
but you
wonky.
could,
It's gonna be
yeah, I
wonky.
mean, you could, in the way this is set up, you could take a bunch of Bretonnian knights with Wood Elf skirmishers,
Oh
right?
gosh, that's
Like,
just mean.
like,
Ugh. Or if
you
you want to
know,
take a high elf phoenix, you could put like a high elf phoenix on the field as the same as like a Bretonnian duke on hippogriff.
yeah. I mean, there's obviously the tax implications of this, right? With the whole like, oh, if you want to bring in Bretonnians into my empire list, I have to pay for 10 men-at-arms or 10 peasant bowmen, right? That are like, oh, this isn't really something I want necessarily. Um,
Yes, you're
or
right. Yeah,
you know,
because it says under allies, it says one of the following grand army composition lists. So yeah, I assume every grand army is going to have a minimum of like mandatory one unit of core. So yeah, you would have to pay a little bit of a tax. You're right. It's true.
So there's a little bit of, lost efficiencies, but still, I mean, thinking of, you know, wood elves and Bretonians allied together, that doesn't seem fun on the table.
Yeah. I'm just responding
But
to
I
you,
do
Vane. But yeah.
I do hope that this does open the door to see what I would describe as 6th edition army list, with where you have all these different army composition rules, where as an Empire player, maybe I could do an all cavalry unit that might have like a special rule going across all my models,
Hmm.
right? Um, or if I did a Sigmarite army, right, with Vigilants, peasants, or sorry, militia,
Sure.
warrior priest, what does the different rules, how's it look like from there? So I am hopeful when seeing something like this army composition specifically that it's going to incorporate other armies. And so you can really bring those together rather than what I would describe as, for the since I've been playing Warhammer's Armies project, I would more or less describe, the armies that I took to the battlefield as like Empire good stuff, right? Where it
Yeah.
was,
Sure.
it's like more of a soupy list where I'm like, like, these units are the best at this, these units are the best at special, or this is what I like at special, this is what I like at core. And you see those universally taken across multiple empire lists, for example, like a steam tank,
Yeah.
right? But if I play a Sigmarite army, should I really have access to steam tank, right? If I have a bunch of, you know, Vigilants and militia. I don't know the answer to that question. I just, from a fluff perspective.
Okay. Well, let's look at some Lords of Bretonnia. Duke, weapon skills 7 and strength 5 base with 4 wounds and 5 attacks. What? That's a Warrior of Chaos Lord right there. Holy
Black Orc.
cow, they gave them a buff.
That's like a Black Orc war boss.
Yeah, it's like a Black Orc War Boss. Strength 5, toughness 4 wounds. So that I think if you put on monsters, they get like an extra 3 or 4 wounds depending. I don't know what a Hippogriff is going to do, but that is a
Three
tough.
wounds.
That is
Three
tough.
wounds on with a Hippogriff.
It's 3, so you're going to have a
Yeah.
7 wound Duke. Wow. They start on 25s. They come with heavy armor, Morning Star, Grey Weapon, Lance. I don't think it talks about what those each do. Oh, there it is, the Hippogriff right there, plus 3. We'll get down to it in a second. Okay. Maybe mounted, may take a shield for only 2 points. A Baron or Paladin. I like how they start on foot. I'm cool with that. So maybe you don't have to take the, was it the Virtue of Empathy? I think it was Empathy that lets you join a unit of peasants. Maybe you don't have to do that anymore. Or maybe that just lets you put in like the dismounted knights on foot, that those new models that came out. Or they're not released yet, but they're coming. A Duke can do 100. Okay, a Baron can do 75, and a Paladin can do 50. What is a rallying cry? You see that? Rallying.
Yeah.
Doesn't let me highlight on here. Stupid image. Rallying
That's
cry.
that's on both of them. So
Not on the Duke, though. Not on the Duke.
no, it's right before the Grail Vial.
You're right. It's on the Duke. I'll shut up. All right, I'm going to scroll down. You can...
So I like how they kind of scaled this. I mean,
cool.
I don't know if Bretonians had something like this before with the Paladin being like the hero, Baron, and Duke. But I could easily see this being in an Empire book as like Captain, General, Elector Count, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, where all of a sudden you scale up into the 3 different criterias, and you can even scale up the points, how many magic items they can take,
Or
right?
Emperor, because isn't this like the time of the 3 Emperors or something?
Correct. Yeah, maybe it goes down that route.
Man, that is tough though. Like with how combat's going to be now, where there's like, did they say no in one of the articles?
No,
I don't want to
what?
say it. Step up. Did they say that in one of the articles at all?
I am not aware
Okay.
of that.
Well, we're gonna say so with the whole front rank only being able to swing,
Yeah, I mean
and you get 5 attacks from this guy.
I mean, if it seems like they're leaning heavily into what I would describe as 7th edition combat. In 7th edition, there was no step up, so just assuming that they're kind of leaning into what was played like in 7th edition. If there is no step up, having a character like the Duke with 5 attack, strength 5, and whatever weapons he can have.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's very powerful with no step up. Because theoretically he might be able to clear off the front rank, and it really limits the number of attacks coming back. If he's striking first.
Mm.
So, I mean, I can
Well,
see that. I mean, imagine the Duke with the lance. I mean, just strength 7, -2 AP, armor bane. Just, I
not
mean,
even a magic lance, just a regular lance.
yeah, just a regular lance, strength 7. Boom. Wounds pretty much everything on 2s.
And then you see this hippogriff, who's also has 4 strength 5 attacks. So you basically have 9. Maybe they get some crazy charge something. You're basically gonna have 10 strength 5 minimum attacks. Insane. And then you could see the equipment of the hippogriff. One, it's on a 50 by 50. I'm surprised it didn't go larger, just because scale creep. That's what happens. But the equipment: Wicked Claws, Serrated Maw, and Griffonic Pelt. So the Chronic Belt counts as the heavy armor, but you can see the claws and the maw. It's not like counts as hand weapon or anything. So those each specifically are going to have a an armor bane or just like a minus to your armor save. It's not specified here, but there's a good chance that's what it's going to be. So
Huh.
you're going to have a toughness 5, 7 wound Duke with like 10 strength 5 attacks. Wow. And
Yeah.
it has counter charge, it has fly 9, it has D3 stomps, and terror. So it has close order. That's weird for a hippogriff
I
to
was
have
about to say
close
that's
order.
funny that they have. I think close order is just gonna be like a universal thing you're gonna see
Yeah,
on most
yeah.
units at
I
this
think they
point.
mentioned up with that.
But yeah, the one thing that's interesting. So it says the Griffonic Pelt counts as heavy armor. Does that stack with the Duke's heavy armor? I don't know. Maybe
Good
there is a way.
chance.
Yeah,
So
maybe
you
there's
have
a
a
way to
5
get a
up,
1-up
heavy
save for
armor from the
characters.
Duke, barding from the hippogriff, and then a shield. So with not even magic, you have a 1-up save.
Yeah, if they stack.
If they stack.
Yeah.
I'm sure they do, because uh,
But let's see
it'd
how many
have to.
points.
That'd be weird if it didn't.
Do they say how many points it takes to get onto the Hippogriff? I don't
No.
see that.
When you scroll up, it just says may be mounted. So this is basically like a prelim. This isn't the whole like sheet of what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, let me read the chat. Let me see. Uh, Casualties removed from the back ranks, representing the rear ranks stepping forward as their comrades bite the dust. Because removed from the back seems like they might still strike. No, they don't. Sorry. If that's what you mean by step up. Yeah, what's
So
up
that's
with
what
that?
I think
Front
that was
ranks only get to swing.
sorry to butcher your name. Yavainway? I hope I
It's
uh,
Yvain. I
okay.
think you've actually met him.
Um
He's up in Nova-ish area. He's
so
an 8th edition for life player.
I believe that's the exact wording from one of the previous articles is casualties are removed from the back ranks representing,
Yeah, he
I
definitely
think
copy
that's
and
the
pasted that. So thank you.
yeah.
What I don't like is, let's say there is no step up, and let's say only the front rank gets to swing. The problem with this edition I'm feeling, and hopefully just like how 40K got like FAQ'd really quickly, they're making characters very big in this edition, but they're also going to force regular units to be super wide. Because I could take 100 wide unit of men-at-arms or zombies, and cool, you charge me, you hit, like, you're in base contact with, let's just say, 5 of them. I still get 95 attacks even if you kill those 5 guys. They only get 1 attack apiece, but it's forcing weird plays in this edition. So I hope things get changed a little bit to not have that happen, because I don't want to see that kind of gimmicky thing. Okay, sorry to
Yeah, I mean
peter off.
if things like that become the norm on the battlefield, that would be very discouraging
Yeah,
to see
yeah.
consistently without a response from Games Workshop, just
But in
mitigating
terms of
stuff like that.
40K, they have been, other than like Eldar and some other stuff, most things they for 40K they put out the rules pretty quickly and fixes pretty quickly. The problem is a lot of the cards that they put out became obsolete pretty quickly. So I hope that I don't know. I just hope they fix things, and I don't want people to buy things and then it's
S-
obsolete 3 months later or something
So
like that. So
so just think this through. Let's just say you're a goblin player, right? You have a unit of 40 goblins.
okay,
So you have to be what, 7 wide, so that you're not in a marching column. You're not considered marching column. That's correct?
yes,
No, you could be 6 wide.
you have to
You could be
be
six
wider.
wide.
No, you said 40.
Yeah, but if you have an incomplete rank, I think it doesn't count. So 6 by 6 is 36. So you have four hanging.
I don't remember what the article said, but I think if you just start another rank, that's counted against you.
Okay,
I
so
think.
then if that is true, then it's 7 wide. So you have to be 7 wide
Yeah,
at that many
at
points.
minimum. I mean, you could be 40 wide. So
Yes, correct. But I'm just saying, like, just thinking through with the rules and the way that they interact and how units interact. I mean, 40 isn't like a large number of goblins,
no,
right?
it's about the average
For
probably.
yeah, for an average goblin unit.
Hmm.
So now you have this 7 wide, and let's just say you want to go to 60, right? So what's the math on
You
that?
do
You
10
have to
by
be
6.
yeah. So now you're at a point where you have this big block, right? A big block of goblins
Hmm.
that's really wide, and you'll never be able to get all really use uh the efficiency of having that big block, right? If unless you have a rule that says the entire front rank gets to swing when they're in combat. Does it make sense? Because you might go up against like a 25-man block unit, right?
Sure.
That only hits you on, so now you go from potentially 10 attacks to 7 attacks, and then with so that's what I'm just trying to think
I
through
see
of,
what you're saying, but
yeah.
they need to somehow limit how wide you can go because if going 100 by 1, it's just dumb. Like it'll look awful on the field, and no one. The problem is if you're playing in tournaments, there's going to be people who take advantage of rules like this because it's like people want to win. So I get that. Um, there something will be
Yeah, I mean, 100
something.
zombies wide, right? Like
You
it's not
like
hard to do,
you can't get to
right?
my characters unless you have fly or you and if you're one rank, you start taking off the sides evenly. So it'll like slowly come to the middle. But if you just have let's say 200 zombies, you're 100 by 2. You just walk across the field and that's probably only like 600 points or something and you just can't get through them unless you have like you charge them in multiple areas with all your stuff. But I don't know, it's going to be weird. It's going to be very
Yeah,
weird.
it's gonna be a huge. I mean, it's gonna be a huge tar pit potentially, right? I mean, I'm thinking like, imagine if you went 25 flagellants wide, right? If you're on
Sure.
25 millimeter bases, that's a pretty big footprint,
Exactly.
like um for flagellants, and they're on previous editions. They've been unbreakable. Who knows what they are now, but they're unbreakable in previous editions. So it's just they're never. You got to kill everyone to the man um, with that.
Let's see.
So
Real quick. Rat catcher. Only front ranks be able to swing. Yep, there's gonna be a lot of characters. Every block is gonna have a tier one paladin. Yeah, I don't disagree. Uh, Heavy armor stacks. We discussed that. I don't know. Um, it seems like it would be logical that they would stack. 40k cards. Yep, they were pretty bad. Um, how much rank bonus you can get in combat. I don't think there's any rumors, but in older editions it was like +3. But maybe now it's per unit type. Who knows? You
I
know?
think I think one of the articles I think the combat article does bring up
It does.
combat res and how
Okay.
it's done.
Okay.
I'll go look at that real quick.
Oh, you did Rat Catcher? Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna be a salty boy too. So there's gonna have to be some house ruling. So I guess I'll get to the end of this and then or maybe I'll wait till the release to talk about. We'll see. Hold on. Grail monks. Oh no, let's talk about the men at arms. I have it here, but we haven't even discussed it. Okay, so regular men at arms is weapon skill 2, basically a generic peasant on a 25 mil base, only leadership 5, so they're going to be fleeing a lot. I do like how they can take like a Grail monk. That's basically a character, and he can take a blessed tripok. How do you say that? Tripic
Tripect?
tripect
Tripict?
tripict a blessed tripict, which is okay. So which is basically it was like the the cabinet with the candles and the statue of the lady, supposedly. Who knows what it does? Maybe it gives you like a 6-up ward or something. Who knows? Um, you can see they don't have Blessing of the Lady, so they don't get that. Now, a lot of people freaked out when they saw the Horde rule. Okay? So everyone was like, Horde rule, no, the Horde rule's back. It's not what you think it is. It's not if you're 10 wide, you get to swing in an extra rank. I'm not going to say what it is, but it's not that, and it's nothing to fret about. It's not a big deal. It's no big deal.
I mean,
Um,
I just look at this Men at Arms. Who would have thought Men at Arms would have had this many universal special rules, right? Like,
like Shield Wall.
yeah, like levies, peasantry, shield wall, warband. I don't even know what any of those
Yeah, what does
mean.
Ward Band mean? Peasantry and peasantry makes sense. Like they can use maybe the knights next to them. I don't know why they have Shield Wall though. Their only weapon skill 2. It's not like they're well trained, but
Well, it
there are
talks
men at
below.
arms
I will
supposed to
say
be.
it talks below what shield wall means. But anyway,
Oh,
I
does
just
it?
was like, yeah, yeah. But I was just like, man, when I first read through this article, I was just like, what is this? Men at Arms.
Well,
Who would have thought?
it is weird. Pole arm, good. Light armor and shield, good. Hand weapon, good. Pole arms are cool now. I don't think they discuss what it does, but basically a lot of weapons you can use in multiple ways, and you just have to select it. It is interesting to see that a champion is still 7 points, so a 7-point champion here is the same as a 7-point Grail Knight champion for some weird reason. Um, let's see, the Grail Monk, like you basically put a Grail monk, which is basically a battle pilgrim, into a men-at-arms unit, and the unit becomes stubborn. Stubborn 8, or sorry, 5 and 6 isn't great, but if you can then use the knight's leadership nearby or your general's leadership, and WAP, you couldn't use the general's leadership for that or nearby stuff. You could only use like the unit itself. But if you can do that here, then you're going to have a stubborn 8, 9 men-at-arms unit. That seems strong.
Well, they mention what stubborn actually does.
Do they? Okay.
Yeah, so it says it
First
grants
time
the
I hear
whole
that.
unit stubborn, so the first time they are required to take a break test, they don't need to risk a dice roll. Instead,
Oh
they
my
fall back in good order,
god, it's so
and then
good.
they give a little hint of what shield wall does, combined with shield wall, which allows them to give ground instead of falling back. So let me just pull up the combat. So fall
Wow.
back in good order is what I'll describe as the gray area,
Right.
where you rolled below your unmodified leadership for a break test, but it was higher than your modified leadership
Right.
due to combat res. And so that's where, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's where you fall back D6 inches and then you can turn to face and then your opponent can charge you, basically charge you in the face again
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
during the pursuit roll.
Right.
Uh, but it seems like this little combo it has with Men at Arms that it's basically you know, a couple model a point sync combo, I guess is how I describe it, where
Not
basically if you
much.
use combat, uh, you just automatically give ground on your first break test, right? No matter what it is.
Which I
So
kind of like. It's as if it's it may honestly it makes me think of the movie The Patriot, where they put the militia in the center, and they always know the militia are going to break, but like the Bretonian knights are going to use that to their advantage. They know that the men at arms are going to pull back after the first round of combat, and this will allow them to use that to their advantage and hit flanks and all that other stuff. Yeah, basically unbreakable in the first round of combat, which seems pretty strong.
well,
Yeah, you get pushed back some inches, whatever,
yeah,
but you don't get run down and die, so it's effectively unbreakable, minus d6 inches, but like it's pretty big. Okay,
I was curious on what they were gonna do with stubborn, with this edition because
it was OP.
like I think
It's
from
been
yeah,
OP.
I would think that it would have been too powerful in old if it was the same as older editions where you just always test on your leadership's never modified, so you're always potentially just giving ground.
Hmm.
And I just thought that would probably be too powerful for what this edition is trying to do. So the fact that it's just your first round of combat, you don't have to worry about it. You just fall back in good order. Um, I think it was a good choice
Okay,
with that.
so the Grand Army is not the only way to select the force. However, However, each faction will gradually gain access to armies of infamy, which provide. So that's good. So in 6th edition, they had some of the most content-filled and most like heavily supported edition. So it seems like that's what they're going to do here. They're going to start with a slow release and then slowly escalate to give armies more like fluffy things. Like if you take like maybe a whole dwarf slayer army will eventually come out, stuff like that, or a full cav army for Bretonia, etc. Um, especially as it means you can then take the forbidden. I like how they're bringing some stuff back from like 3rd edition, so Bretonians can use bombards again. Like it's a Border Prince bombard. It's pretty cool. Um, there's no World Almanack on the 16th, it's Christmas Day, but expect something for an off-white Christmas. I assume that means Tomb Kings when in terms of off-white because they're bone would make sense. And then as Jonesy read earlier, yes, including those factions getting a PDF list, so it's good. Can you still kill the monk guy as soon as you get into combat with him? So you're
So
asking if you can like focus out champions and characters. I haven't seen that in any article yet. It just you can upgrade one to a champ, so it's not even. That's interesting. So in the options, it doesn't say the Grail Monk is a champion. It just says Grail Monk. It doesn't have parentheses champion like the Yeoman. So does that mean he can't accept challenges, and does that also mean you cannot select him out in combat? Maybe.
yeah,
Maybe.
I would say based on previous editions, that's a yes.
Hmm.
I will be curious too if you're able to character snipe in combat, like you have been in probably every edition, 7th, 8th, and Warhammer's Armies project that
You
I
mean like
played.
allocating specific attacks to? Yeah, you
Correct.
should
Like,
be able to. That'd be very weird if they don't allow that because that was pretty big. But even like 6th and 7th edition, you wanted to even focus out the champion because there was no step up, so you wanted to make sure you didn't even get a champion swinging back at you. So I would assume they'll do the same here.
yeah, that gets interesting too, because if we start to think about like how like, so you remove models from the front rank, but does that mean your Grail Knight,
Back rank,
sorry, but I meant like there's no step up, right? So you're really removing models from the front,
right?
right? But since the Grail Monk's not considered a man at arm, you're not ever able to target it. Does that mean he always gets to fight, right, along with the champion if there's
That's a good
no
point too.
targeting? Like
Huh.
you know, it's just he's just 2 attacks at strength 3, but they add up.
Yeah, well, it's mostly his giving the unit stubborn, which is the
Yeah.
the big thing. That's a good question. Or does it count? Maybe you could focus him out. Maybe in the PDF or the book for them, they will put like he counts as a character because at this point it looks like rules is written he's not able to be focused out unless somewhere in the juicy rule book it says you could focus out any model in combat. I don't know. Um,
I'm also
but that's
curious what like
interesting.
things like levies mean. Like there's tons of armies that could potentially have like something fall into the category as a levy.
Yeah,
Um,
it could just be that it's mandatory, like because remember, like one of these units is mandatory, maybe, but that doesn't make
yeah.
sense for levies now.
Or is like maybe they have interesting rules that interact with each other. Like if 2 units are levies next to each other, they support each other, can
Yeah,
maybe countercharge for
yeah.
I don't know. I'm just
Um,
speculating.
I know that's like state troops kind of thing. It's good speculation, but who knows?
Yeah.
I think that's it for the articles. And how long we been going for? Hour and a half. That's pretty good.
So
Um,
I guess I
huh?
guess we can open it up to any questions that maybe people have specifically
Yeah.
over the
Does
next.
anyone looking forward to something, or they want like start getting your questions ready? Like I am ready to read this for y'all. Um, I think on the day that it actually that I'm allowed to talk about, which I talk about it, which I can't even say what day it's supposed to be. I am basically going to go through this rulebook with y'all live, step by step, for the entire day. Make sure everyone knows the rules. Um, it's going to be a long day, especially going slow and asking questions and answering questions. But it'll be a really good insight to see how the game's played, and maybe some army books will be released on the same day. Army books / PDFs, whatever, will be released on the same day. So if people have questions, you can join, ask about that, and I can look something up, etc. Um, but I guess that's it
So
for the articles. Yeah, what you got, Jonesy? What you got?
so looking back at some of the older questions, Vaneway, sorry, can't pronounce your name.
You
Apologies.
just you
It is
Yvain. Just you
Yvain.
Yvain. Yeah.
Yeah, so Yvain, he mentioned the +1 rank. There is no restriction. The only restriction is that you have to be in close in order. You can't be in a marching column. If you consider marching column, I think one of the first articles that came out said that you do not benefit from rank bonuses in combat. So you can't have the bus anymore, right? Of like 5 goblins wide and 100 deep or 30 deep.
Oh, so he was. I think was he talking about +1 rank? Okay.
I think he was answering a question, but I'm just
Yeah,
adding some more background for what I know.
for ranked bonuses. So you might be right. It might not have set a restriction, but let's just there's gonna be a restriction, and it might even be on unit type or what have you. There's a good chance that's what it's gonna be. Um, Now, I hope that they took a page from Warhammer's Armies Project and gave you +1 combat res per standard. Like even if you get charged by 2 units, that combat res they should get +2 because 1 for each standard. Like that morale boost is going to add up. But based on older editions, that they won't do that. It's looking like it's going to be very close to 6th, 7th, and 8th edition, with only not taking too much from WoP. So I don't know if they really dislike the rules or they just didn't like them or whatever, but we shall see.
So Blue, from what I do not know the Bretonian book that well,
Okay.
but one of the things I'm curious about is like what units might not make the cut, right? Because we are in a different timeline, we are in a different
Sure.
time period where,
You mean time
this
from the
is
older, from like the 6th, 7th, and 8th edition book?
correct from the 6th, 7th, and 8th edition book. We're at a previous timeline. I think, in previous articles or pictures, this is like years ago, right?
Mhm.
There's speculation that this was like during the Three Emperors,
It's
right?
basically like 300 years from earlier from 8th edition, basically. It's like
You know,
2200 something.
so is that like before tech lists, for example? Like what kind of units don't
Teclis is
necessarily?
old as hell. He's like thousands of year old. Yeah, he's definitely like Teclis would be
Okay,
there. I don't know if they're gonna make special characters like
so I'd
that,
just
but
be curious
probably
on like what units
for
maybe
Bretonia.
fall out. But I was just gonna ask is like, have you seen anything? Obviously they've added units, right, with with the Foot Knights,
Sure.
for example. But um, I just wonder if you have any speculation on
Anything from Bretonia
units
should
not
be
burning.
there because you just have basic heroes. You just have men at arms, yeomen, squires, knights, Pegasus knights. They might add Hippogriff knights. I think that would be cool as like another rare choice. Like you actually have like what they did in Worm's Armors Project. You had not units of hippogriffs, which are basically just monsters, flying monstrous cavalry. That'd be cool to pair alongside your Pegasus Knights. That'd be neat. But they didn't release a model for it, so I'm guessing they won't do that. Trebs. No, the Bretonian army book is very limited on its choices, so everything should make it pretty easily. It'd be nice if they added a new one, but I guess it seems like instead of trying to make new models and everything, they're just going to allow allies. So then you will buy like you'll have some cool spicy units instead. Um, and gunpowder is supposed to be a little bit more limited, I think. Let's see.
Yeah, so one thing I'd be curious about it. Like, do they move handguns to special, right? Where you're not necessarily removing
Sure.
the unit, but you're changing the
Does
availability of the
anyone
unit.
know what year Empire weren't they given gunpowder by the dwarves? I think that was the thing, right? Like the first thing? Is that wrong? I feel like that's true. Um, they showed Iron Drake, so feelings everything. And 20 something years before Magnus and the Storm of Chaos. Oh, before that, yeah, that one. Okay. Uh, characters will definitely fall out. I just don't know which ones. Thorgrim could be there, but instead of being High King, so he could be a Thane at this point. You know how they have like Duke, Baron, and whatever. He could be a Thane instead of a the King. Um, Yes, it is cool that the Border Prince Bombard. Does that mean they're going to release a new? They have to release a model for it, right? They can't just say Bretonnians are getting cannons and then not put out a new cannon. I don't know if you've seen the third-party one. I think it was it Lost Kingdoms. It has a really cool one. It's like a huge bombard, and then it has like an arrow protecting, um, uh, like huge piece of wood on it with like a big symbol. It looks really cool. Uh, I think everything's going to be there except characters. I think the characters are going to
Yeah.
change, and then basically everything from 8th edition has come along. If I
Yeah, I
assume
just
y'all have seen the Tomb King box release or leak, not release, that basically had chariots, the old archers, the old chariots, the old horsemen, and no one ever ran the cavalry. The cavalry was trash, so maybe they'll make it better again. Um, oh, you've got it, Ratcatcher? Nice. Yeah, it is a very cool one. I like it a lot. Grand
I do
Tournament.
wonder with the uh
That's so stupid, Crusader. They had 14
like
unit choices. The
14.
Bretonnia book, that's so bad.
I think the Empire has like 10 in core alone, I
Wow.
think.
Yeah, Crusader, I have two of the old bombards, the old Citadel ones. So they're painted and ready. So ooh, yeah, where the Marienburg one would they have a land ship?
That's what I was wondering, like things like Steam Tank, Hellstorm Rocket Battery, are they in there?
I don't know what year the Empire really went crazy with like artillery. Um, this would be a good question, good trivia question. Does anyone
Now,
know? Also had gunpowder before the Great War of Chaos. I don't think they would limit it because right now, when you buy a Hellblaster, it comes with the rocket battery. I don't think they would want. No, they're going to have to allow it. They're going to have to. There's too many people with it. There's too many people with the Age of Sigmar ones. They're going to have to allow that kind of stuff. They might just be very limited in maybe a 0 to 1 per 1,000 points or something like that. But I feel like they're going to have to bring that.
yeah, I agree with you. I don't think they're gonna do this. I think it's like Steam Tank, is a centerpiece model for the Empire book, so they're just not gonna get rid of it. And they might have to, rewrite some history, some fluff about the unit
Sure.
itself, but I think they're just gonna,
I
more or
hate
less
steam
force it.
tanks.
Yeah.
They're such a
Hope
crutch. It's like, come kill my unkillable thing. Ha ha.
unkillable, unbreakable thing. Can
Yeah.
you defeat it?
So gross. But I think that's it. Do you have any closing arguments? Closing arguments, Jonesy?
I have some closing thoughts.
Yeah,
I'm certainly excited for this stuff. There's definitely some high points and definitely some pain points that, just from an initial look from an article perspective, based on the information that we have, can certainly room for growth, I think is the best way to describe it.
agreed.
Um, but I am excited. Am excited to, start putting some models together, painting some models, putting some models on tables. Uh, my one wish that they do sooner rather than later is just give us the base size dimensions for all the models. I
Sure.
mean, it they probably already have it in some PDF. Give it to some intern for like 2 hours to type it up. Like, just give it to us. Let us start,
Let
adjusting
us
for
get
what the
ready
new
for the
book.
game.
Yeah, basically. So that way we're all ready day one, or have some of us ready day one.
I
What
agree.
about
I think
yourself?
they could do a better job, and I guess that's his best going to do. Whatever. Good enough for now. They could do a better job on managing that because you see, I don't know if you see. Oh, I'll scooch down. Meow. I don't know if you see the posts on Warhammer the Old World Facebook group, but every single day there's multiple posts about base sizes. Every single day. And that person either gets flamed because they're like, shut up, like, because like, enough of this. I think some people have muted the group or left the group because the same questions get asked every day, or the same article gets shared 1,000 times over like a week. Um, but there's so many people in that group, it's hard to know what's been shared and what hasn't. Um, I definitely think GW could have just you could just throw some like a questionnaire out there to ask, should every model in the front rank be able to swing? No. Like, should there be a step up rule? Yes. Should, stuff like that. There should be it's going to be charging is going to be huge because initiative bonuses. Um, it's. I'm looking forward to it. I'm not. I'm still cautiously optimistic. Obviously, I have read this book, um, and I think overall it's going to be a good addition. I still think Warhammer's Armies Project has several one-ups compared to the book, um, but to grow the community and to get more players and basically build Warhammer Fantasy back to what it used to be, I will still 100% play this, even if it's a worse edition than Warhammer's Armies Project, because I want more players. That's basically it. I want more people to play with. Um, I want big events. I want the whole community to come together. I want 100-person events with like people dressed up and some cool narrative battles and people having like badass display boards and all that kind of stuff. So I want that. And if we just did Warhammer's Armies Project, it wouldn't happen because some people uh, they just want it run by GW. They just
Mhm.
like that central system and central overlord, I guess you could say, that is controlling all the pieces, figuratively, I guess literally too. Um, so that not having that has kept a lot of people from playing WoP. Um,
I mean, one question I have for you, Blue, if you were to introduce someone to fantasy, right? Just the
okay.
concept of fantasy, rank and file. Would you first bring them in with Warhammer's Armies Project, or would you play a game of potentially this, the old world, or go to like another edition, right? And I
Uh,
wonder about maybe that's part of part of the thought process is on GW's end is like, hey, we haven't had an official game by us in almost 10 years, right? We're gonna have a lot of people that have never played Warhammer Fantasy before that need to have some type of simplified
yeah,
game, and maybe we can grow as a community into the more, Warhammer's Armies project where, I mean, there's essays on FastCav, right, in Warhammer's Armies project.
yes, yes.
So I just your thoughts on that.
Well, the problem is just like 40K, whenever someone plays a different game, that game always usually dies out, and everyone always comes back to 40K. Um, that's just what happens. It's because the player base and the company is so strong that people move away or get tired of the game or whatever, but everyone always comes back to the same games. So I would love to teach Warhammer's Armies Project to more people. Um, there's a couple people in the Battlegrounds Discord, which is the local game store, that have got an army ready and they're ready to play. And they even asked about Warhammer's Armies Project, but I said you won't get as many games. In my opinion, it might be a better game, but I have to find out you first with a couple playtests. It might be a better game, but to make sure you get games and to keep people involved, it's going to be this. It's going to be this, which is fine. So if I was going to teach someone, I would teach someone the old world first. Warhammer's Armies Project is definitely more complicated, mostly because of magic and some other things. Um, but with the new additions of Giving Ground and all that, the complexity of the old world is still there. Like it's still like old fantasy. Um, so just to grow the player base, I would teach the old world. If for some reason GW screws up the old world, which I don't expect to happen because they're putting a pretty big investment into this, then we can always go back to WoP. Always go back to Warhammer's Armies Project. It's still there. The Discord's still going crazy. There's still chatterboxes like if you want to have a good thriving community, that's still a good one. Um, but in terms of local game stores, it's going to be the old world. The old world is going to explode. All the old grumblers and longbeards are going to break their stuff out from the attic, from the deep in the closet, and throw an army on the table and just test out the game. So I think it's going to be the old world. Um, what'd you say? You've got the book. Have you tried playing a game of it? No, I have not. I have not played a game yet. I'm the only one who has read this book. I have GW. I have not shown anyone else. No one else has seen it. So don't get mad at me. So I'm waiting for some people to be able to sign an NDA so then they can start play testing games with me. I can get some battle reports filmed, but I could play versus myself, but I've never really enjoyed that, lining up two armies on the field, because it seems like your deployment's too easy. Like, fantasy is huge in deployment, and if I'm able to just deploy opposite of exactly what I need to deploy against, it's better to just like math hammer and theory hammer out stuff instead of playing versus yourself, in my opinion. So no, I haven't played yet, but I am itching to do it, and hopefully, I almost just said the date. I almost just said the date. So hopefully on this specific day, I can get a game in with somebody or a couple people, or I can just watch them play and I can just like make sure the rules are right. So I think that's it. Oh, dwarves discovered gunpowder in -420 according to Wiki. Okay. Yeah, the Ninth Age and WAP, they both have like a lot of people. WAP has grown pretty vastly, at least on the East Coast, because we all just kind of agreed to go to it as a community. Not everybody. That's not a GW thing, so it'd be awesome to see an official game out. I agree, Michael. So if it's being supported by GW, people feel more confident to invest into it, because that means that it's going to be continue to be supported, right? And that's what people want. People don't want GW to put all this time into it, and then like a year or two later, they just scrap the whole project. So with GW, the chance that happening is very low. It's only the first edition. That's true. Age of Sigmar, the first edition, was awful. It was just like, you have an army, bring everything. There's no points. Haha, the points don't matter. But yes. So Jonesy, thank you for joining me on this stream. Guys, viewers, appreciate y'all watching. Jonesy, if you want to play some Warzone or something, or whatever you want to do, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Thanks, YouTube. Thanks, SquareHammers. Look forward to get ready. All I'm going to say is get ready. It is coming out a lot sooner than people think. I'm going to turn off that background.
Thanks.
Da-da-da.
Yeah.
There it is.
Thanks for having me, Blue. Thanks everyone who was able to join on. Appreciate the commentary and the questions. Feel free, I guess, to try to message us if you have any more questions.
Oh yeah. Follow, like, subscribe. Join the SquareHammer Facebook group. You can post all your cool stuff. If you have a community and you're looking for local players, post on there. If you're looking to show off your miniatures, show them off. Like, I love seeing everyone's like works in progress and all that stuff. Even if you see another battle report or another like podcast or something, share it on the SquareHammer profile. Like, I don't get to see everybody's, and I love watching everyone's content. So please share it around and have a ball.
I want to see armies being prepared for battle.
I did make a post and like asking about the old world, and a bunch of people. There's like 80 comments on it of people like posting pictures of what they're working on, and some of these guys are like, they're ready. You could tell they're just like, come on, give me the rules. I need that plastic crack. But thanks, guys. Thanks for being part of the community, and look forward to the next one. Bye. Let's do this.